Thank you. So good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are, to everyone, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Silvia Salini, Sustainable Energy System Expert at ICLE, Local Government for Sustainability. And today I will have the pleasure to accompany you through this sixth webinar organized by the SESA project, which stands for Smart Energy Solution for Africa. The title is Harnessing the Potential of Smart Microgrid in Africa. And the potential is indeed an enormous one. If we consider from one hand side, the opportunities that renewable energy generation can bring, just to mention the obvious one, solar in Africa, in the African continent, is a great resource with approximately 4,300 hours of bright sun shining a year, which is roughly 97% of the possible total. And on the other hand side, we have over, unfortunately, 6,000 million people, around 43% of the total population from the African continent that do not have access to electricity quite yet. 80% of them are living in the rural areas. Therefore, indeed, smart microgrid is an opportunity, and in particular, smart element is a key one. It implies the deployment of technological devices to better manage energy flows and therefore make the energy system overall more efficient, reliable, and resistant. And for the next hour and a half, together with a distinguished set of speakers, we will dive into the business opportunities as well as the existing and needed policies that can favor the advancement and the usage of this deployment of smart microgrid. But of course, we don't have to forget that it's not just about digitalization, it's not technology for the sake of it, but it's the impact it can have in really improving the life of over 600 million people, as said. As you can see, an interesting agenda ahead of us. I will shortly give the floor to my colleague Fulvia Mastrocesare, who is going to briefly introduce the SESA project. And then to kick off the discussion, we brought here for you to learn about the two experiences that we have gained and we are gaining through the SESA project. And then I will hand over to the colleague Anderson Katpila from the Stockholm Environment Institute, to whom also goes the acknowledgement for gathering the amazing lineup of speakers we have today to discuss about, as said, business, the policy, and the risking tools that can make smart microgrids in Africa a widespread ones. Before closing on time, hopefully in 1 hour and a half. A few logistic notes: this webinar is recorded and is going to be uploaded on YouTube, on the SESA YouTube channel, as well as on the toolbox. And questions are very much welcome, so please make use of the chat box. We try to do our best to pick those up along the way and along the webinar. So thank you, and I pass over to Fulvia now for the brief introduction of the SESA project.
Thank you, Silvia, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Fulvia Mastrocesare from ICLE Europe, Local Government for Sustainability. And before we move into this fruitful discussion, hopefully, and open the floor to the speakers, I would provide you with a bit of a zoom in into the context from which this webinar stems from, namely the SESA project. So this is the sixth webinar organized by Smart Energy Solution for Africa, SESA, which is a new funded project granted on the collaboration of Euro and 9 African countries, which you can see here on the map. SESA is a collaborative project that aims to provide clean energy access technologies and related business models that are very easy to replicate and generate also a positive impact for the local communities. This is done through the creation of local opportunities for both economic development and social cohesion in Africa, and more specifically where these technologies do get implemented. For a more concrete point of view, in several local living labs, it is expected to facilitate the co-development of scalable and replicable energy access innovations for them to be tested, validated, and later replicated through the African continent. As we've started with our main site in Kenya, then we have expanded and enlarged through through local partners and different selected SMEs in order to implement the technologies locally. As you can see here, the project explores different technologies, solutions to provide energy access. And these include, for example, decentralized renewables, innovative energy storage systems, including, for example, the second life electric vehicle batteries, smart microgrids, waste-to-energy systems, climate proofing, resilience, and adaptation, and rural internet access. As you might have guessed from the title of today's webinar, we will focus on smart microgrids. As a last note, this project has been running from October and will run until September 2025. Pardon, October 2021 until September 2025. And it is a great result of a partnership between leading European and African universities, research centers, industry actors, local governments, knowledge and implementation organizations, and networks. Now I'll give the word back to my colleague Sylvia to introduce the speakers.
Thank you very much, Fulvia. This was a short but dense overview. More information, of course, can be found in the SESA website. But with no further ado, let's go on the concrete, what the SESA project is doing and what are the partner actually doing locally. So it's my pleasure to invite the first presenter, who is Mr. Tawish Lame, Technical Manager at We2, one of the project partner, that will tell us a little bit more what they are implementing in Kenya. Tawish, please, the floor is yours. I'm afraid we can't hear you. Apologies, some technical hiccups. I'm just checking, Tawish, are you with us?
Yes, Sylvia, let me step in for Tawish while he sorts his mic. So I'm Charles Ogalo. I coordinate the SESA project for We2.
Thank you very much, Charles. 1 second and we pull up the slides as well.
Okay. I hope I'd be able to present as ably as Tawish would have. But perhaps before I go, maybe Anderson, do you want to mention something or to introduce yourself as the facilitator for this session? Or should I just proceed?
I think you can just proceed and I'll come in during the discussion.
Okay, so as introduced by Fulvia, we are We2, which is the short form of We Have Victoria Limited, and we are a SESA partner alongside others, leading demonstration actions for the SESA project in Kenya, and we are we are doing this through what we call the smart microgrids, which is the topic of this presentation, or this webinar rather. And we have 2 living labs, what we call the living labs, which are smart microgrid powered by solar systems. We have 236 kilowatt solar systems that power different use cases. And by different use cases, we mean appliances that are powered by solar energy. And for the rural use case, we are testing out 2 use cases, actually 3 use cases, which is provision of clean, safe drinking water, which we purified from the Lake Victoria. We are giving out solar-powered fishing lanterns for lease to fishermen. And we are also now trialing solar-powered irrigation, which we are using lithium-ion battery cells to power this irrigation, unlike the traditional solar panels. Why we're testing out the lithium-ion batteries is to have a hybrid system, which we call a swappable system, where the lithium-ion batteries can still serve as the batteries can work as the battery storage for the energy hub and still power the use cases. In this case, our solar irrigation pumps through the same batteries that are used to power the system. The whole energy system are the same ones that can be used to power our different use cases. And in this case, we have solar powered irrigation through solar lithium-ion batteries. And for the peri-urban living lab, which is in Katito in Kisumu County, we are experimenting with a couple of use cases, namely provision of safe, clean drinking water through an ATM network throughout the peri-urban area of Katito. And then we're experimenting with solar powered electric mobility, also using lithium-ion batteries. But the system is more of a traditional a traditional inverter system with deep cycle batteries, which are not as swappable as for the other living lab, which is in the rural living lab. So in a nutshell, those are the verticals we are powering, but we are also now just going into solar powered cooling. So we have a cold room we've just set up in which was supposed to be in the living lab in Katito, but which is now in the living lab in Kisegi. And here we are storing fresh produce and horticultural produce using solar powered with a system that does not use refrigerant. And in our other verticals also, we do produce ice flakes from lake water, which the fishermen use for their fish preservation. So we have cooling both for fishermen, fish preservation, and we have cooling for fresh leafy vegetables for the retail women in the market center. So we still cover agricultural value chains. We're trying to look at the end-to-end production and storage. So in a nutshell, that's an introduction to Wetu. And I hope Tawish can be able to take us to the next session, but
Yeah, thanks, Charles.
Thank you, Tos, and great, Lame, to see that you are with us. There is a bit of echo.
Thanks, Charles, and
okay.
I think you have ably been able to represent in a good introduction. So probably in my presentation, I'll probably take us through just a sneak peek of our systems that we have implemented in Wetu, and as Charles has ably mentioned that we are living lab experimenting particles. My part would just be to mention exactly the topology of the solar systems that we have used in our living hubs. Fortunately, we are still trying 2 arrangements. Probably as we move through my slides, I should be able to explain the difference between 2 of our sites, which is in Katito, and another one that is in the rural of Kisegi in the Lake basin. This is in the shores of Lake Victoria in Kenya. So in my second slide, you realize that traditionally, there are quite several systems that we use. I've just tried to demonstrate in an icon here that for our site in Kisegi, we are using a hybrid system. This means that several solar switch gears are combined into one called a hybrid inverter that converts the energy from the panel directly into the battery, and as well functions to give an output that feeds the loads. And for our case, is equipment that does safe water, electric mobility, and of course, rechargeable lanterns and small hole irrigation plant systems. If you look at the alternative, which is actually an AC coupled system, I will basically build this on SMA. You will have two key devices. One is called a PV inverter, it's a grid inverter, and a battery inverter, which then means once you produce from the sun through the grid tie or the PV inverter, the output is fed into a battery inverter that charges the battery. So at any time there is no sun and you want to have an output from the battery, so the battery inverter then pushes the energy from the battery into use cases or loads in this case. So yes, our challenges and our concern probably in general would be that the hybrid system is comparatively of a low cost. Of course, given that the AC couple or the semi arrangement in this case will probably need two switch gears instead of one, like it is in the hybrid system. The other thing also is that these products are easily available, particularly in the African market, and the installation is also very user-friendly. Of course, by fact that there's an amalgamation of two into one, already reduces headache for the installation. Secondly, and I think probably thirdly, actually, many of the authorized dealers around actually give to the local users and users of the equipment training and also an after-sales service. Unfortunately, that the SMA system or the AC coupled system that we use in one of our sites is the most robust technically, but it's also at least a little bit expensive compared to the other one. And however, it also has a very limited supply in the African market. So of course, it would still be open to anyone out there to use whichever they prefer. But we're just trying to say and analyze, or rather give an opinion of what we have done in our experience. I'll move to my second slide. So our experiences as where too has been particularly the story around smart grids. The technology, whichever arrangement of the above that we presented to use, is already proven available and very robust. So meaning the section of energy is very proven, particularly if you follow a few of the steps that we have highlighted, that you can choose of those two available, particularly either get someone who is experienced in the installation and design, but much more of the work would be in the nitty-gritties of the design. For example, for us in Metro, our demand and our use cases are actually sun following, meaning that we get to use most of our energy during the day and spend, or rather do any activity during the night. This means we're very aligned to nature, and in this case, there will be very minimal demand or necessity for energy storage. Of course, that means a smaller battery system, and therefore the total investment in the system will be very low. And of course, that translates to an early or a shorter return on investment. The other thing about our system is that all our use cases are very interlinked, actually by design. So for example, you will have all our use cases powered from a smart grid. We're producing water, we're producing ice, as Tasa said. We have an energy box that we give to domestic users. We do smallholder irrigation kits. We have a rechargeable lantern for fishermen and domestic use, and electric mobility. So in this interlinkage, you find that our mobility, our electric mobility helps us to take all our products to our end users. And therefore it means we will have a higher, the whole arrangement facilitates our product uptake in the market, and hence ensures that the energy generated from our smart grids is actually utilized, and the end result is that we will have a very high utility and consumption ratio. Of course, it still plays. It may not be related to design as such, but then becomes a very core component on the running operation, and of course then a return on investment or even the sustainability of the project itself. These things may not be seen essentially as design, but they are very key components as you think through the development of your smart microgrids, so that then you, for example, do not end up with unused or idle capacity. So take an example. We have an e-bike that can deliver ice, water, energy boxes, lanterns, and all our verticals and all our products to, say, to the last inch of the last mile in the BOP. So therefore, that whole arrangement together is what we are defining as a smart grid, other than the system itself, but the fact that the modeling itself then aids the success of the system. To my next slide, just exposing or expounding more on our learnings. So also our systems are made very modular. In this case, for example, in the two of our living hubs, should there be any changes in the market by any way, we anticipate that we can be able to downsize either of our sites and increase capacity of the next living lab if the demand of that community is higher, or if the need for our services is high in that way. So all these are precursors that actually should be seen to actually become a quality or a qualification of calling one a smart grid, meaning that it's very adaptable, it's expandable, you can scale it, you can downgrade and be able to expand, or even approach another small community of the next village and offer the same solutions. So again, to all of us, this is still what we confine as the definition of a smart grid. And lastly, as Charles had also identified, that we have a hot swapping system. This actually plays into the following role, that all our use cases are using batteries in one way or the other. For example, the electric bikes, the vehicles, or our smallholder irrigation kits, or our energy boxes, they're all using batteries. But the same batteries are the same batteries that we're actually using as a stationary energy storage for our solar systems. This flexibility actually means that instead of investing in two battery banks, for instance, you would rather buy your use case batteries and still use them and still apply them as your stationary energy storage bank. Of course, it may not be seen here, but for all mini grids and microgrids and maybe say decentralized energy systems, the battery is the weakest point and yet the most expensive one. So at any time, if we can find a loop or a backdoor where we can be able to reduce the cost of batteries, or an arrangement that can save us that cost, it means that we will end up having very sustainable and quite an expansive application of smart grids all over Africa and probably in the world. Of course, cost is inhibiting, and we will encourage that to adopt this kind of an arrangement will then be able to give us a breakthrough in such an arrangement. So yes, if you imagine that you can plug in a battery and plug it out, put it in an energy box, send it to a client in the village to power their clinic or their salon, or to have them in their public address in the event they have, then this is actually a simple smart grid. Finally, one of the other things that we also say, that in our design, what we also put is the first principles of science, just basic science that is understood all over, that then functions as an alternative storage of energy. For example, once we have purified our water, we usually push this to a tower over a potential overhead tanks. So though it may not be seen and probably not very considered, once you have done this actually means that you can be able to supply your water to all our ATMs or water points in household, then on gravity without involving any energy. So instead of powering a booster pump at night, we have an overhead tank that will then be able to supply our water to all our clients and watering points. So yes, this is a cliche probably, but it has played a very big role in our systems and in our living hubs. And we see daily how this can be able to save us energy and then be able to use this in another useful application. And for our advantage, we have also a nexus of an additional ice making, where we make ice blocks, and this will also be a form of energy storage, meaning if you have any extra energy that is there, you convert water into ice, and this is very applicable to our fisher folks around the lake. Then this means they will be able to afford some time to probably fish for long hours, get more catch. And it also means that then they will be able to defeat post-harvest losses. And of course, you imagine if the best market is far away from you and you have ice, then you'll be able to endeavor also to deliver your fish to the best market that can fetch you the best prices. So in totality, we have a nexus. We have our smart grids are not just aided by the technical design that we have done essentially, but that the design, the holistic design of our microgrids are thought around all our use cases to make sure that they are very intelligent, that they are interlinked, and they be able to leverage each other and create a demand that ensures that all our energy is utilized. I would imagine that and that these were the key learnings that we have, and thank you so much for the opportunity and everyone for listening.
Thank you so much for sharing. Well, first, Charles, for introducing the many activities that you have been doing so far and keep on doing. You mentioned irrigation, e-mobility, but also cooling. So quite some of them. I'm sure there will be a lot of questions for you. And thank you, of course, Tawish, also for going a little bit more into the detail and presenting this holistic approach that you are taking in order not to waste any energy produced along the chain. So thank you for that. We had another presentation ready for you from Mr. Samuel Azare, who is the founder and the CEO from Nasdaq Power Solution in Ghana. But he reached out to me saying that unfortunately internet connection is very bad and is not able to join at the moment. So let's see if he managed to connect along the way. But I would say that we post this by now, and more information on Nasdaq, who is also doing a great job in Ghana, you will find on the SESA website, and we will put the link in the chat for you to access to it. But then this was a trigger. The discussion is just about to start. We heard Tawish mentioning already some challenges, the cost and the setup and in the design. So I'm pausing just for a moment to see whether there is any burning question from the audience. Otherwise, I hand over to my colleague Anderson to take us through the discussions. Any question? I don't see anything, so please, Anderson, over to you to introduce us to the next part.
Thank you very much, Sylvia, and thanks as well to Samuel and Charles for that very enlightening presentation about Way2. I think most of the participants have learned, much about what you are doing, and probably to gain some few lessons that they could take home and maybe apply in their various institutions or wherever they are, if they're also like doing similar, businesses. So just to proceed with the discussion, I see Professor Da Silva has not joined. He's a professor at the at Strathmore University, and he has actually been spearheading a solar power system at the Strathmore University, and everywhere he goes, he just talks about that. That's why we invited him to come and highlight some of the success stories of that system, but unfortunately, he's not around. Then we also have the two presenters here from WETU, and I will start with the presentation, just to highlight, probably, I'm sure you made mention of it, but to give some more details about some of the challenges that you are facing with regards to, deploying these, use cases to the local end users, as well as, going more specifically to if there are any challenges you had in terms of accessing finance from the banks, and how exactly are your business models? How do you roll out your business model to actually ensure that the solutions actually reach to the last mile? Over to you, Charles and Tarish.
So thank you, Anderson, for that question. I think more than just creating a system that's responsive to our energy demands, we also co-create locally with our users. We really do analyze. We start from a needs assessment. We do really analyze what is needed by the community, by our users, and looking at sustainability elements from even an economic perspective, sizing our systems according to what's sustainable in terms of maintenance and what use cases can be supported from that. A smart microgrid, which also translates to creating products and services that are affordable and sustainable in the long term, even for our users. So then when we take our products to the users, initially it's a very intricate process of co-creation and learning with them, even when we set our prices. None of our prices are set by us off the go. Of course, we have our cost of building our system, but we always co-create our business models and our pricing that's very responsive to the users. It's always a dedicated discussion. Case in point is we've just recently launched our cold room in beta. And what we did is that we know there's a demand for cooling, but then this has to be translated to by our users from a user perspective. So then we go first to them and talk to them, we experiment, they store their produce, understand the value, and then we sit down and discuss, okay, this is the value, this is the value that it presents to you, this is the post-harvest loss, so this is the need for energy that you have. So what then does this, what then is a price that is accommodative for you? And for us, we solely focus on social impact, and we do not take profit from the business. So our revenues are only purely to drive sustainability and run our operations and the business. But then we do not take any money from the business, but we recoup all our revenues back into the business. So this is also communicated to the users, and then from there we come up with a comprehensive pricing point that works for them, and even the use case in terms of the business. What would they like to see our use case translate to them based on their needs? So it's a very delicate balance between sizing our systems, having the right use cases, flexible approaches, and really developing business cases collaboratively with our users in the true essence. I hope that sort of answers your question.
Yeah, thanks very much for that feedback. Just to follow up, we do know that installing some of these systems, might be somehow capital intensive. That demands a lot of capital investment right at the beginning, and also looking at the operational cost. And now putting together, the code development of the price and the users and the investment, how do you ensure that, you actually make money to run, those equipments? Because the users might probably be willing to pay something that is not equivalent just to maintain the equipment. So how do you come up with that balance?
Yes, thank you. I'm not sure there's an outright answer for that. But then how we size, what we do is, say, in the event, say, water business, we have to think about innovative ways of pricing our water. Our water, we really look at social impact. So then, in terms of revenue for our water systems, you will rarely get revenues that are crazy in terms of they're not as commercial as other people. But then you find other things which cross-subsidize the water. So then you find that water is a big need. So then how are you able to provide a key need or a basic human right to them, while then offering them another service? I think we say it's mostly a relationship business. We're in a strong fishing community. So then what do they need? They need lighting to fish. Then we provide them lighting to fish. They need water to drink. And then they need, those who are doing farming to store their produce. Those who need, everyone needs to move. We offer them a clean electric mobility. So then we merge all these things together to achieve sustainability and really, we can't say cross-subsidy, but then it allows us now to be able to run operations efficiently. And at that level, it's just a delicate mix of really what are the community's needs, what is a economic activity, what does that translate to us? For us, it's finding the right product at the right price that we can be able to deliver our service and yet be sustainable at the same time. So I hope this sort of answers. It's really a delicate mix, and that's where now user co-creation comes in. And even in the use case appliance, the technical bit where we design the system, we know our energy demand, but we still look at what is the demand of the user, I say, before we size all this. And then now we bring a product that tries to respond to the user and their need. Yes.
Quite delicate indeed for such social enterprises. And just one last question before I move on to the chat. What about access to finance? Do you have some difficulties because it's more of a social enterprise, and how are the banks, responding, if at all you've actually approached them to seek financing?
So in terms of financing, I think, apologies, my son. But in terms of finance, we are lucky that we've been able to grow a bit organically, and this is now where projects like the SESA project have really come into to help us scale the work that we've been doing. We've tried to grow with a mix of grants, our own revenue, and a bit of shareholder loans, but it's an intricate mix. I think we haven't gone banks yet per se, because of course, even as is in terms of electric mobility, the banks do not understand this space. Talking about water, these are social goods, and really the financial systems here are not yet responsive to even such use cases, and even social enterprises and social entrepreneurs. I think renewable energy is really heavily underfunded still in Africa. So I think the financial institutions, but there's of course, as we grow and really our work speaks for itself, we find that other institutions are starting to be interested in how can we be responsive. But of course, there's things like the interest rates that the banks are offering, are really a bit up there. So we haven't really gone into financial institutions at the moment, because taking commercial loans at the rates that are currently in the market wouldn't allow us to have that sustainability that we have. So then it's a mix of really good partnerships and looking at how we can scale together, which we're also doing in the SESA project, which has also opened up other opportunities where our work is visible, and there's other collaborations and innovative financing that is coming through such collaborations. Yes.
Great, great. So I have here some questions from the chat about how you size the battery and as well as taking care of battery degradation given the different applications and operations. So probably you or your colleague could just throw some light on that.
I'll allow Tawish to respond to that, how he does the sizing and how we do it and how we calculate.
Yeah, thanks, Charles, for your presentation and answering the other question. I think maybe to the first question, ideally what happens is that, yeah, it's true that we're using the same battery for in the system, and we are applying the same battery for our use cases. Degradation will always happen in either way, whether a battery is stationary or it's used in use cases. So the only difference that we do is that we will have, say for instance, if you sized your system and you know that your daily energy demand is 10 units, and probably your off-sun hours consumption is say 6 units of the 10 or whatever number, depending on the context of your solution. What we do is that we will have a very minimal, probably 4 or 2 units that are stationary to store the energy, but then a bulk of that same battery will actually be hot swappable to be applied for our use cases. The difference, of course, is that the stationary battery bank would tend to last longer than the application in the use cases. For example, a battery that is used on a vehicle or on a bike would not last as long as the battery that is used as a storage or a backup, a stationary battery for the smart microgrid. So in this case, after some time, most of the use case batteries then will be returned as stationary batteries for the system, meaning essentially that we will tend to use newer batteries for use cases, and batteries that have lasted long would be pushed behind as a stationary battery bank for the system. This is possible. The math would be in deciding, for instance, if your use cases need, for example, 10 batteries. You say instead of investing on another separate chemistry or technology or a separate different battery for the system, let me add 10 more batteries that are similar to those that would be used by the use cases and have all of them together. So at any time you will have a higher demand for more batteries, more people swapping in your use cases, you can always have the advantage of a few of your batteries from the system delivered for your use cases. So that mix, of course, will be one that you will learn depending on your user behavior, but the technology is available and it's very possible, and we are practicing it in our hub.
Great, great indeed. Yes, proceed, please.
Let me probably take you through with the other question about why would we use batteries for small irrigation kits instead of, I think the question was, the water in a water tower. The difference would be that we are also not extremely big to be able to achieve, for example, to deliver water to 10, 20 kilometers away from our living hubs. The irrigation kits are only meant for places that are a little bit far off from our stations. But if anything, the water that we abstract and purify cannot be used for irrigation in this application. So our core, there's a lot of demand from our communities from where we operate for clean, safe drinking water. So our core, as we look at water as a vertical within WETU in the arrangement as a living lab, we are only producing water that is safe for human consumption. So essentially, any other application, like we are trying for smallholder irrigation kits, and in most cases, they will be very far, the farms will be very far away from our infrastructure either way. So we are using a mobile kit that will be powered from a battery to be able to deliver, say, water for 2, 3, 4 acres a day on a single battery, And from our experience, we see that as a workable solution, and the application works with the life of our smallholder farmers within our living hubs. I'm not sure if that answers, but the point is that our water and our water tower for now is not used, cannot be applied for irrigation. And either way, most of the farms may not necessarily be at the convenience of your infrastructure. So then it means it has to be a mobile kit that can move around, that can go where the farmer is. And in most cases, of course, our geographical position along the lake means that most of the farms will also be some distance within the lake. The idea would then to put arrangement of equipment to be able to deliver water as demanded to the plot where agriculture is done. Thank you.
Yes, perhaps. Thank you, Tam. Perhaps just to add on to the battery is also being able to deliver energy demand at the most convenient time. Agriculture practice early in the morning, late in the evening, and sometimes you find there's shading, the weather is not conducive. So using panels essentially mean that you have variable and varying speeds or intensity of pumping. So with the battery, you deliver the energy immediately and be able to share this use case amongst different farmers. If you want to pump in 1 hour, you have your energy delivered very quickly, stored in a battery. This same battery is used with a different, we call this sharing economy approach, which is very, very key for us as well. Just a quick addition. And I see the next question, if I can answer this. We are now going into 18 hubs all around the lake. We're in 4 counties. We are in Kisumu, Siaya, Migori, and Homa Bay counties. And our footprint is growing. So yeah, we can say comfortably we are going to 18 hubs now as way to, and the plan for the future is to scale. Yes.
Charles, maybe to add to the point of degradation, it will also be important to mention that as well too, we have an e-waste vertical within the company. This means that we have the ability and the advantage to sometimes we have partners that we are working with sometimes to rework around degraded batteries. And of course, in our experience, a degraded battery may not essentially be a battery that has all bad cells. So the advantage here is that we can tear up a battery and repurpose the cells for the application of our other users. And thankfully, for in life and in the application of energy and batteries, there are use cases that may not be extremely as energy or current demanding as others. So meaning that a battery that is used on a motorbike, for example, can be repurposed to be used as a lantern that can just be used to light a domestic house. So in this way, our use cases are so interlinked that they can be able then to leverage from the disadvantage of the other to still give a life to the next and uplift it again into the market.
Thank you very much for those comprehensive response. So due to time, I think we will move on to the next discussion, which is on policy instruments to accelerate deployment of smart microgrids in Africa. And on that note, I would like to introduce to you our panelists for this session, beginning with Engineer Fred Ushuga, the General Manager for Renewable Energy Research and Development, REREC in Kenya. If you're there, please just put on your camera. And the second panelist is Engineer Frederick Afia. I was told that he has not yet joined, but if he's around, please put on your camera for us to begin the discussion. And Engineer Fred Afia is Deputy Director for Renewable Energy Regulation Commission for Ghana. So welcome to you both.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks, Engineer Fred. I'm not sure if Engineer Fred Afia is online.
Yes, I'm online. Can you hear me?
I'm talking about Frederick Afia.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. If not, then we'll just proceed with this session. And just to begin, I know you've been working on so many projects on the smart microgrids, and probably just provide some highlights on some of the policy instruments that have been there to actually promote the deployment of these systems in the rural Africa.
Yeah, great. Thank you. First of all, just to introduce myself, I am Engineer Freddy Sugar. I work with a government agency by the name of Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation. It's an agency fully owned by the government of Kenya. In other words, I work with the government of Kenya. So the agency main role is to promote electrification in rural areas. And also promote renewable energy, both promotion and also development of such projects. You rightly put it, we have been able to reach quite a number of rural communities, and we have reached them through mini-grid electrification programs. Just to mention, as a government, as a government agency, we are fully non-for-profit. So one of the processes is actually to have this in the policy instruments, and actually the government to put in place such an agency which the government can use as a vehicle to drive electrification activities in rural areas. So deliberately, the government has been investing through Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation. We have currently a total of 43 mini-grids that are running across the country, and mostly far from areas which grid is not likely to reach in the next like 10 or 15 years because of the cost implications that are involved. In the country, of course, the areas that we are reaching out are areas which have very unique settlement patterns. Most of the communities there being pastoralists, and also being arid or semi-arid in nature in the majority of the areas. Then the population is also low and concentrated in specific spots. And these are the spots that we try to reach out with mini-grids and microgrids. We also have very special zones. These are island areas. Yeah, so the island areas that we have, some of them within Lake Victoria, we have connected these areas through mini-grids. We have connected some islands along Indian Ocean. We have quite a number. And like right now, actually, I'm visiting one of the sites in the coastal region called Wasini Island, where we are connecting through a mini-grid system. One of the policy instruments, just to summarize, is the government deliberately putting it into the structure to support. Then, of course, we have had a lot of support towards mobilization of resources by the same government, and also through the agencies that are responsible for that. I'll say that we've been working very closely with organizations like the World Bank to support development of this project through funding. We have been working also with other research institutions to develop mini-grids. We have quite a number in some areas, especially tourist attractive areas. We have areas around Masai Mara. A number of mini-grids have come. And again, we have policies put in place where private sector are licensed. Private sector are given opportunities to identify an area, properly map a request, and of course we identify whether this investment can be able to recoup its funds. Then we give licenses to such kind of private sector organization, and they have been supplying electricity through the mini-grids that they are putting in place. So generally, the country and the government of Kenya, I can say, they have been very, very much in the push to ensure that rural communities are able to access power so that they quickly go to the same living status, the same productive opportunities to those which are connected within the grid. So I think that is a little that I will share with that. Of course, with the questions, I can be able to expound a few number of areas of interest to the participants.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just to follow up on what you responded in terms of, you made mention of two key stakeholders here, the government and the private sector. Can you throw more light on their capacity in terms of deploying these technologies in rural Kenya? How capacitated, are the government officials as well as the private sector in this regard?
Yeah, this is an area of continuous improvement. Capacitation, of course, it covers a wide range. Of course, through our own institutional framework, of course, quite a number of changes come into proposition, and these are areas that we continuously improve. We talk of also capacity in terms of the technical capacity, both for private sector and also for government officers who are working on this. We have a very, very good program on continuous development, and this we have also been working very closely with other agencies, like the World Bank. I can say we have a new program that has come in place, and one of the main components which has received sufficient funding is the component of training and capacity building, just for the individuals who are involved in these programs to be able to have proper skills in terms of implementation, both technical skills of how to handle the programs, together with other social and environmental skills, which are very, very crucial in terms of implementation or successful implementation of micro and mini-grids. You realize that in Africa, land tenure is an area that brings a lot of contention, and the successful implementation of such kind of a project requires both knowledge on environmental matters and also good knowledge in issues of social, including land-related issues, how you manage your stakeholders, how are they involved in terms of implementation of the project. So I'll say that those two areas are areas that we are very key on. Capacity building for our staff and ensuring that we do continuous improvement within our frameworks, because there's constant study, realignment within agencies, and also within agencies, interagencies within the Ministry of Energy, and also with Treasury, who for REREC, Treasury is a very important partner because we draw all our support directly from the national government, also who help us negotiate for support from other development partners. Yeah, for private sector, of course, there are also frameworks that have been put in place for implementers. In Kenya, energy is highly regulated. We have a very robust regulatory environment. We have regulations. We have, of course, the policy also in place. We have the Energy Act. So players within the space, they require to have specific minimum trainings and experience to be able to enter into the field. Otherwise, if they don't have them, they need to have somebody who can take them through for a specific period of time, a specific number of projects, so that they're well licensed to be able to play within that space, especially to larger systems like microgrids and mini-grids. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Just to follow up on the one barrier that you made mention of in terms of land tenure. Are there any other barriers apart from that that are actually hindering the deployment of smart microgrids? And what, in your opinion, are some of the solutions to overcome these barriers?
Yeah, of course, implementation of such kind of projects, they come up with quite a number of issues. Huh? Just to mention, of course, it's very related to issues of social issues of awareness. Awareness of the importance of such kind of projects is very critical. Of course, aside from the technical capacity being the barrier, but the real communities that these projects are set in. Yeah, the communities together with their leadership, they need to buy in. So proper awareness is a very important aspect. I just give an example. It's an area we develop. Of course, we did load analysis and everything done. We implemented a mini grid of about 320 kilowatt system there. We started supplying, but of course, because of lack of awareness, the perception, then the uptake becomes very low. You find utilization of such a system being at around 18%. This clearly is attributed to proper awareness. What do the people there know about what a mini grid or microgrid can do to them? Yeah, so it's also an area that requires proper unlocking, and we unlock this through sensitization and advocacy activities. In REREC, we have a department specifically related to that, and we promote the use. Of course, also cautioning of the dangers, because sometimes the system is a renewable energy system, but once well connected, then you generate power that can also harm or hurt. So these are areas that we continuously work on within the institution.
And just one last follow-up question. Have you, as an institution, faced any form of, competition, in this area where you have like other major players coming in and eating into your customer base? So just give some highlight on that.
Yeah, REREC, as I mentioned, is 100% government. So, and the rate at which we charge, the mini grids we implement, we charge at the same rate as the ones that are connected to the grid. Yeah, so that is one. So there's no real danger of competition within us, but I appreciate private sector are very cautious of that. I can give an incident of one site where we licensed a private sector. They developed, they started charging, they started operating for like 5 years. But earlier on also a grid extension program had been designed but delayed in funding. So within a short time, the grid extension was done and the area was almost like being encroached by the grid. So with such kind of misunderstanding or sometimes challenge in planning, of course, it threatens the investment, especially from private players. So there are areas that we continuously watch. When we license, we gazette those areas and avoid reaching out to those areas so that private sector can recoup their investment. They can play with ease within the market. Once the license period enters, then you can be able to extend with the grid or other ways to be able to reach those communities.
Great, thank you very much for those comments. And I don't know if there are any questions here in the chat. Let me just check and see. Yeah,
There-
I can't see any.
There
Oh,
is
sorry.
one. Happy to bring this up. There is one. It is asking what is the government policy in Kenya on grid-connected microgrids. So about the framework, I guess.
Yes, yes. Yeah, these are new policy area development. Currently, we have feed-in tariff regulations in place, and also net metering regulations coming on board. So these are new areas, and the government is very cognizant of that. And we are doing all that we are able to do, of course, with proper consultation with all stakeholders, including private, to be able to adapt to the new norm. So, yeah, the government of Kenya is very committed to addressing any challenges that come with the new developments within the market.
Thank you. Before I go on to, I see Charles and David, you want to come in, but before I go to you guys, let me just give one last, it's not really a question, but a comment. I asked about the competition because I know the government of Kenya is actually developing this renewable energy auction policy, whereby, you know, they will start like giving bids to private companies to actually, you know, compete, and then the one that comes with the lowest price win the bid. So how are you guys anticipating to start, you know, competing in that field in the near future, whereby, as you said, right now you are charging at the same rate as the grid, and in the near future, other companies might be charging, you know, at a lower rate. So how are you planning towards that direction?
Of course, these are proposals that have been done, and of course, regulations are being put in place. So how also the market evolves, because electricity market is also very dynamic, especially renewable electricity market. It's very highly dynamic market. So currently, of course, we have an agency that is responsible for that. The ministry mostly, and also Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, who are mandated to do that. But of course, within the sector, what I can say is we are still open. We are still open. How the market plays out, then we are able to adjust accordingly. But as a government, the basic indication is the tariff is very high, and the tariff has been high based on the contracting processes. This auction market brings a little bit of more competition. You go for the lowest technically evaluated bidder, and you are able to get value for the investment the government is putting, or even the investment that you are licensing out. Yeah, so that is an area that, of course, it will have to be tried out. We are only getting information from areas that have practiced this, but we haven't practiced it within the country. So it's an area that we'll want to watch and see how best it rolls out.
Yeah, quite an interesting scenario there, and looking forward to that. So I'll hand over to Charles. I think you were first to raise your hand, Charles. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, engineer, for taking us through that brief. My question would be in terms of private investment and trying to secure private investment, especially now seeing the things like the moratorium.
You're breaking. I don't know if you can hear him clearly.
Am I now audible or still?
Yeah, better now.
Yes,
better.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question would be in terms of private investment and protecting private investment, especially with regards now bringing the auction. think we've had two incidences of the moratorium, the one placed by Cabinet, then the subsequent one that was placed by Parliament. How then are you looking at policy instruments to sort of protect investors, also at the same time make sure that we have investment in the energy sector? I think we are suffering a bit, of course, there's the negative consequences of the high PPAs, but then also on the other hand, we need investment, and also for investors to have confidence that in the future we won't have an incident where you really put in investment, you've done your feasibilities, and then you come and have the event of the moratoriums, which push the CODs, and of course you have all these discussions of long stop CODs, your PPAs become null and void. So are you thinking from a policy context? Are you looking to respond to this, both looking at protecting the energy investment and also making sure that the users are served in this event?
A response needed, or we pick the two questions?
Yeah, I think you can take the two questions, then you respond all at once. So over to you, David.
Yeah, thank you. My name is David Njugi. I'm an energy expert, also work with the World Resources Institute. And I just wanted to make some observations and maybe throw a question to Fred as well. I think looking at what Wetu has presented, there are key things that one can pick, the need to reduce the cost of electricity, the service that you're offering to the end consumer, and of course offering some quality superior service that the community or the end users actually need. And also with REREC, I think the idea of leveraging development funding, government money to crowding private sector, but also scale up or increase the pace of mini grid deployment. I think and of course making sure that that these systems are not just being implemented in isolation, that there is some market assessment that is being done to increase the load factor. We are bringing in income generating appliances to improve the profitability and sustainability of the companies and the systems. And I think the key issue could be to Fred or to anyone is the issue of scaling up, moving from 1, 2, 3 pilot cases to go into scale. As you know, accessibility of debt or private finance or debt especially is not easy from financial institutions. So need for support by government to de-risk such systems or some form of debt facilitation. There are things that companies or investors cannot have control of, for example, forex issues, the exchange rates, the interest rates that banks are charging or financial institutions are charging, the economy, how the economy is performing, and the ability of end users to pay. So there's need to kind of bring all these systems together, forms of subsidy, equity and debt facilitation, risk sharing between private sector, government or public finance, to make sure that we actually achieve the goals, both here in Kenya and across Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Before you go into the thread, there's one question again from the chat. So you can just combine the three questions and provide a response. Is there a better way to address the issue of grid encroachment? I believe waiting for private sector to recoup the investment is a delayed ride for the buffer community to access electricity?
Yeah, I think I've got the three questions. First, I'll put a disclaimer. This will be personal contributions, not really, because most of them, of course, they touch other agencies. And you know, energy sector in Kenya is highly, actually, it's highly segregated. So we have specific agencies to handle specific issues. Basically, for us, we are implementers. We are government implementers. Huh? Yes, we are also subject to regulations and controlled by IPRA and the Ministry of Energy. Yeah, so the issue that has been raised regarding moratorium and all that, I think the best way to respond to that is that we have complaints that have come, and currently the government of Kenya is in the next phase of reviewing our policy, which actually needs to feed to other tools that we use to control the market. You will realize that this is the information, of course, I have personally from EPRA. We have quite a number of private sector that have expressed interest with the ministry, and of course, the process towards licensing done through the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Quite a list is available for private investors to be able to implement projects. Some of them are not able to take off. Some of them have been halted, of course, by utility, the controller, that's Kenya Power. And in recent years, in recent months, we've had also issues of unstable grid, the collapse of grid and all that, mostly necessitated by also the high level injection of renewables into the grid. And now I'm talking for different agencies. For instance, of course, our other agencies who are controlling the grid will be very, very uncomfortable to continue injecting renewables. It gives them quite
Yeah, I believe Fred is having some technical issues there.
okay. Am I audible now?
Yeah, we miss you for a few seconds.
Okay. So I was saying this is what actually directs the Ministry of Energy and, of course, responsible agencies to put in some measures. Some of these measures, of course, are put to be able to protect the utility company that have been facing quite some challenge to manage a high level of grid penetration from renewables. In terms of forex, I may not be able to fully respond to David Njuki, because again, this highly goes to the utility, because of course they issue a purchase agreement with to the investor. And of course, the agreement usually is between the utility and the investor that is feeding in power into the grid. So, of course, this has been in public domain. Most of the systems that were done, and especially at times when the government was experiencing quite a huge number of blackouts, together with shading, there was need to instantly or within a very, very short time be able to make to have the grid supply without shedding and others. Sometime in 97, 98, moving forward. This is the time that most of the agreements were entered into. Through the rush, I think a few things did not go as expected, and the impact is being felt now. Yeah, so just to mention, the government would be more interested to have PPAs signed with local currency, or if PPAs are signed with foreign, of course, that's why the issue of auction is being introduced, so that the lowest bidder gets it, and this cushions the issue of power costs, even moving into the future. So these are just kind of corrective measures that are being put to some of the issues that happened in the past, to try to correct challenges that we say that happened during the contracting and all that before the market really changed, and the impact of what happened can be felt. So I think that is what I respond purely from personal information, and what, of course, I've gained within the agencies.
Thank you very much, Engineer Fred, for those very comprehensive responses you provided to the questions. And with that, we'll move on to the last session on the de-risking instruments. I will quickly introduce the panelists. Mr. John Excel, Energy Specialist at the World Bank. Please, you can turn on your video. Mr. John Mutunga, the Senior Energy Specialist at GIZ, as well as Mr. Vincent Kitio, the Urban Energy Unit Leader at UN Habitat. Please, if you are in, just turn on your camera. Then we proceed to the next session.
Hi everyone. I've turned on my camera. I hope you can see it. This is John Excel. I'm a Senior Energy Specialist at the World Bank. I'm very happy to be part of this discussion. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, John.
I'm Vincent Kitio. I'm heading the Urban Energy Unit at UN Habitat. Thank you for joining you.
Thanks for coming.
And I am Jackson Mutonga, working with the GIZ Kenya on energy, transport, and climate change. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining. So I believe the three organizations, you have like projects that are ongoing, and just to begin with John, from the World Bank, in terms of some of the de-risking instruments that the bank has put in place to actually roll out some of these systems across Africa.
Yes. No, thank you so much. Thanks for the very rich discussion so far. And thank you also for this question. I think as a first step, we really have to collectively make sure that whoever is the sponsor of the project or portfolio of project is that they choose the right locations. And so we have seen too many times where basically mini-grid solutions were chosen where they're not the optimal solution for electricity delivery. Either there was a very low density of customers and very low demand for electricity, in which case standalone solar systems would serve a much better purpose than a solar mini grid. So first is let's make sure that the sites are well selected. Then secondly, that in addition is as a consequence of that there is a good design, and that with the good design follows the good products that are being deployed by a qualified company. So I think that is the basic, the fundamentals for an investment to look at. And then when we look at the market-based instruments for de-risking, we're seeing that there is this mismatch between the affordability that many of the clients have versus the ultimate cost that the delivery of the services bring. So there is a viability or an affordability gap. And so for that, you need public funding. So you need subsidies. And so what we have learned over time is that ongoing subsidies have a bad track record and create all kinds of negative side effects. And that we learned that the result-based grants linked to the buy down of the CapEx and the performance associated with milestones have proven to be a very effective instrument. So on one hand, you have these grants that do a partial buy down of the CapEx in the range of maybe between 40 to 60%. As well as that, in many cases, these grants are dispersed in hard currency. So there's also, for a lot of the mini-grid developers and sponsors, there is this mismatch between earning revenue in local currency and having to bring the hardware in purchase with the hard currency. So having these grants in hard currency also helps with the alleviation of the pressure for the sponsor of the exchange rate risk. So I think that is a very important instrument for us that we're working with. Then the second is long-term debt. So in a lot of the countries, you have shorter-term debt available that aligns with the depositors. But for infrastructure projects like this, you need long-term debt. And so we're encouraging partners, but also ourselves, to come in with longer-term debt financing to overcome that mismatch between short-term and longer-term. Then we have, we're now seeing that a lot of requests is on the equity side because of the macroeconomic circumstances. And so the interest rates have gone up, inflation has gone up, affordability has gone down. And so there is a shift away from the debt financing to now a big ask for equity. So many of the companies in this industry are now asking for equity. So we're trying to work also with partners to see how we can set up an equities facility that can flow into these investments. And the kind of equity, the patient equity in particular, is also helping with the de-risking of the investment. And then you have the more indirect instruments and the more traditional when it comes, which are first loss kind of risk mitigating instruments, political interference as provided on the guarantee facility, and then of course the whole technical assistance bucket, where we're really trying to help with creating the enabling environment. So have good mini-grid regulations, have inclusive policies that not only allows electrification through grid extension, but also mini-grid and off-grid, as well as with the geospatial planning tools that we now have, where areas for mini-grids can be identified. And then maybe a last note to mention is really the focus on skills development and capacity building. Once you have all of these elements going one way or the other, it's really important that the teams can grow with the aspiration of delivering these services. So, yeah, how do you work with training institutions to have the technical skills available to in the villages to first of all acquire the customers, but also over time to from a technical perspective keep the systems going. So maybe that's it's a bit of an overview of some of these instruments that we're seeing being deployed in Africa.
Quite interesting indeed, John. I think you've really provided, the broad range of instruments, which of course are really, really needed, to actually, promote the deployment of smart microgrids, especially in rural communities where we have, most of these private investors looking at it as high-risk investment. So some of those instruments are quite critical in order to attract, some of these, investors to deploy these technologies in those communities. And moving on to Mr. Jackson and Vincent, I know GIZ and UN Habitat have been engaged, in the smart microgrids. Could you please just highlight some of the key challenges and barriers that you've encountered, and probably some of the solutions that you've put in place to overcome those challenges? Over to you, Jackson and Vincent.
Thank you, Anderson. I mean, for us, typically GIZ is a technical assistance organization. We do provide technical assistance across several technologies and sectors, majorly on mini grids, quite a lot being done across Africa. But specifically for Kenya, if I could talk about the barriers and the challenges we have seen and experienced, because we ran also this mini grid program since 2013 until 2018 with that technical assistance facility. Then we had in between a financial assistance facility, but co-financed by the UK government. And of late now we are running also mini grids in refugee setups with the technical assistance facility from the German government as well. And thanks also to John for explaining quite comprehensively on the risky mechanisms across Africa, which some we have implemented here in Kenya and have had our experience and challenges thereof, because we also began with this RBA facility here in Kenya, which was quite good. It was a very nice learning instrument, I would say. And with the project developers whom we engaged, it was challenging because, number one, the challenge was on the limitation of this RBA. The financier gave just a small basket, which we could implement few projects, I would say 14 projects for that matter. And it was capped at a certain level, and that was like 50% of the capex. Then during the implementation, the challenge was that this capping was actually not working. It would have been better if the incentive or the financing was flexible enough to adapt to the market development in this case, because we worked in the off-grid communities, which was quite heavy in terms of investment, and you cannot have a clear picture on the cost of the mini grid until the end. Community expectations change along the way. Regulatory framework was not constant, not predictable. Fee were introduced here and there by the regulator. So to adapt to this within the capping and the fixed RBA facility available was not the easiest. So one of the things also we discovered and a challenge was these developers needed a lot of hand-holding. Majority of them, and especially the local developers, lacked the capacity and the commercial capacity, I would say. With the technical skills, there's quite a lot of that in our country, and a lot of that they had, but now the commercial aspect in trying to model the business, do the financial modeling was a bit lacking. So heavy technical assistance is required to move along the risky mechanisms. Then access to finance, of course, was a big challenge because most of the local companies could access the local currency, and procurement of these instruments, or rather the parts of the mini grid was imported. So they would now purchase in the foreign currency. So there was that aspect of the forex exchange risk, which I think also could be addressed through the risk guarantee mechanisms, especially by the NDFIs, and the projects could be financed by the local currency, because I mean, John explained also that that is the currency they collect revenue with. Then the business models in terms of the risking, one of the business models we piloted was this public-owned mini grid but private sector operated, and we gave one of the county governments, did the mini grid and transferred to them. Then they did hire a local company to do operations. That's a private company. And what we found out is the public entity at this level, the county government, they lack the motivation, they lack the capacity and the strategy to operate the mini grid, to expand the mini grid. So it was a failure of trying that business model. So hard lesson learned, a very expensive one, because also this mini grid was decommissioned at the end of the day, and the grid extended to that area. And then, of course, the affordability of the tariffs to end users, definitely a lot of political influence from the politicians pushing the community to demand national utility tariffs. That was another lesson learned, or another risk and challenge which we had to handle. And now when the community demands this and the mini grid developers to recoup his investment, it becomes a challenge. So we also did some piloting with one of the counties actually to do some equalization or cross subsidy for that matter, using the equalization fund. And they drew an MOU with the project developers, but you know, the MOUs are not legally binding. So at the end of the day, the developer was not paid because the MOU was designed such that the county could cross subsidize and bring down the tariff to national utility rates. We did this proposal also to the national government to see how they can channel cross subsidies to private sector owned and operated mini grids, just as the other mini grids are enjoying this cross subsidy, especially the ones operated by the national utility and REREC. By and large, the feasibility study support, the community engagement support, and the licensing support with the regulators proved crucial, but came with their own challenges. And the beauty of it is we would work with these project developers, which was also appreciated. But then sustainability of these interventions is the biggest challenge, because at the end of the day, when a program by GIZ ends, then they are on their own. We need to look more into how we can have sustainable de-risking mechanisms. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackson. And moving on to Vincent, I'm not sure if UN Habitat is facing similar challenges or deploying some of the de-risking instruments that John made mention of. If so, please, could you just provide some highlights on that?
Thank you very much, Anderson. Thank you, John, and also thank you, Jackson. I have to say that UN Habitat, we have not been fully involved in the smart grid system intervention, but again, the way we operate within the urban energy unit is that we focus more on the urban poor in the cities, and also on the peri-urban poor. And we have been very much trying to see how to enhance their energy access. For example, working with slum electrification program, where in the past we facilitated some capacity building with the utility company so that they can have a special program for the slum dweller and therefore enhance their energy access. In those cases, there were some prepay system, which today is now very common in the sense that people could pay in advance to access their energy. And of course, there have been a lot of development along that model, whereby there are also being some regulation put in place. For example, in the case of Kenya, this slum electrification program has been rolled out in all the major cities, which is very important. But I have to say that of recent, we are starting energy access and smart grid system, but based on a model like what was presented earlier on by Wetu, the energy hub we developed a concept called multifunctional clean energy centers. And at the moment, we are deploying 5 of them in Harare, and also and in this system, most of the challenges in terms of the de-risking of those investments, because we are talking about a big investment. One multifunctional clean energy center, or you may also call it energy hub. We are putting a 50 kilowatt of solar system in the roof with 100 kilowatt of storage capacity. We want to offer the same services like Way2. We will be offering a charging facility for the slum dweller, or people living near it. But what is important, and what John mentioned, is about really capacity building, because as of experience, we have noticed, for example, in Cameroon, where I come from, the government put in place 200 smart grid system in villages. At the moment, less than 100 of them are operating properly. Lack of human resource, the human resource were not very well, were not prepared, trained, or developed, lack of skill. Some of the sites were oversized when they were being designed, and others were undersized. And therefore, with a lot of load coming from the community, it became very difficult. And then other sites were also, like John mentioned, were actually put in place where the community are very distant between themselves. So they end up having a lot of energy lost in the transmission. So it is really important, the design, if we want to de-risk, the design is very important. We need to have human resource. We also need to have people that are able to manage, to provide maintenance when they are needed, and also build the capacity of those people that are operating, and also proper awareness on the operation. So those will de-risk that big investment. At the moment, the different sites that we are preparing in Zimbabwe, we are also looking into revolving fund, whereby we say if the hub is working properly, they should, because we are talking about an investment, they should, the revenue, part of the revenue that they will be collecting will be used now to put back in the revolving fund. So we have a fund manager that will now get that fund, put that fund in place so that we can build another multifunctional clean energy center. And from the center, which is also, we also call community power centers, we also plan to connect some of the houses around. But again, another issue here, which is very important, John mentioned, is about the purchasing power of the community. When we are designing this unit, we really need to know that the community, people that will be accessing it, may not have that resources to pay the power the way you and me are paying your electricity bills. And therefore, we need to add on the grid also revenue generating activity. Like, for example, we are thinking of putting in place vocational activity, like sewing machine, welding services, maize mill, and many other activity that can increase, that can make use of this electricity that is being generated during the day with the solar energy, so that they can produce additional revenue that can de-risk the investment that are putting there, because there is no need to invest and the energy that is there is not being used during the day, and then at the end of the month we have not electricity, revenue to do the maintenance. Now, the other points which we are also looking, and very important, is about the business model. What type of business model are putting in place? We know that in some places the government is running will run this facility. But again, we know that most of the time with the government running it, and sometimes there are a lot of bureaucracy, sometimes they are not also able to buy spare part. But again, we are also encouraging public-private partnership so that they are able to really manage the investment, and proper governance is put in place, transparency is put in place to make sure that at the end of the day, when you look at the business, I mean, there is a really clear revenue that are coming in that are able to sustain the system. But we are also looking into social company, where social context, whereby the community can also own share of the system. You have a community-based organization that could facilitate the operation, and then you have the government. So we are putting the three main stakeholder in place, so as to ensure the sustainability. Because at the moment, most of these sites are donor-driven, but what will happen after the donor put out? That's why it is the issue of sustainability and the issue of proper business model put in place is key. One last element, which we are also looking into, for example, in one project that we have just developed and submit to donor, we were actually invited by a county government in Cameroon to develop an energy generation facility. They are looking into 50 megawatt of electricity generation from renewable energy. One of the points which we look at it was that the first thing is to remove the different barriers, like the bureaucracy in providing license for the operation, and all these barriers that are not attractive to independent power producer that can come in and invest. And one way we were looking at it, we were actually exploring this the result-based financing, because we believe that in order to attract the investor, we need to put proper incentive in place. And in some places, we have actually engaged with the government, asking the government to remove the taxes. Kenya and East Africa may be very advanced where there are no taxes, but there are other, today in Africa, there are quite a number of countries that are still taxing renewable energy product. I think this has to be removed. If we don't, the tax, we don't remove the VAT, this technology will not be affordable. And even if they are affordable, I don't think investor will be able to really recover, because at the end of the day, if the cost of energy is expensive, we will not increase energy access. So just in summarize, I will just say that skill development is key, because these are new technology. It is not just an electrician coming in and put the cable. No, the solar system required a dedicated technology, a dedicated knowledge base, which need to be taken into consideration. The second point is about proper business model putting in place. The third point is about the incentive. How do we put incentive that will attract investors to come and put and take advantage of the renewable energy potential that is there. And then perhaps also the other element is also about awareness, and we should be sort of building awareness about the technology. It's not just a simple thing of going to the shop, buying a solar system, bring in the house. Without proper awareness, this may not really serve the purpose. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vincent. So due to time constraint, we'll not be able to take questions from participants. And with that in mind, I'll give the panelists 1 minute just to wrap up their final thoughts before we go to the next session where we'll conclude this discussion. So, Mr. John, over to you, 1 minute.
Thank you so much. So let me use the 1 minute to maybe inform the audience that we have started from the World Bank to take energy access very seriously. And we just launched a program called Ascend that is trying to help to electrify 100 million people in Eastern and Southern Africa across 22 countries. And one of the 3 pillars is the distributed renewable energy pillar. And under that very firmly is the mini grid and the microgrid solution. So the funding was approved for that in November of last year, and we're working with the Trade and Development Bank here in Kenya, but focuses regional, to support mini grid initiatives. So we're really keen to work with all of you to see how we can accelerate the rollout of mini grids, and with that provide electricity to many of the Africans. So so that's what I would like to say in my 1 minute.
Thank you very much.
An invitation to dance.
Yeah. Jackson.
Thank you. So also for me, 1 minute, I would say, yeah, mini grid continues to be a very important pillar in universal electricity access in Kenya. And as GIZ, we support the government through our TIA activities, the private sector through our TIA activities, in other projects, even if not focused on mini grid. And we are very active also in productive use of renewable energy, because at the end of the day, it is what transformation does this access bring that is very important to us. So we are piloting a lot of these applications on off-grid productive use of energy and on-grid at the same time, including electric cooking and e-mobility. We have programs on that, and we are also supporting the government towards transition to 100% renewable energy generation for both on-grid and off-grid in the areas of policy, regulatory framework, capacity development for both public and private sector. So we are in this space together, and it requires every effort every person is making at their level that contributes a lot towards the achievement of our target as a country and also within the region. Thank you.
Yes, my 1 minute. Now, I just wanted to say that, yes, I fully agree. Without energy, there is no possible development. And that's why Habitat decided, although we are a human settlement program and housing program, we have decided to focus, to put emphasis on energy access. And the way we look at it, the way we increase access is also about looking at how we use natural resources, renewable energy resources, and so as to reduce the pollution. I just want to say that, yes, the multifunctional energy center, the concept that we developed, it's really a concept that need to be upscale in different regions. Anybody attending this webinar will want to know more about it, or want also to explore, to see the possibility of developing it. We have developed the business case around it, and we'll be very happy to share with you, and even to initiate some discussion around it, because we believe that it is a center that addresses energy in an holistic way, because we are also looking into community cooking facility, clean cooking facility. We are also looking into places where it is also possible to do other services, including waste to energy. So basically, this is one way to go, and just to say that any success in any business is a proper design of the business case. When your business case is not well designed, when you don't have the proper skill, you are actually designing to fail. So it is important to really put this in place, and also always keeping of removing the barriers that has been impeding the penetration of renewable energy technology. Thank you very much for inviting us.
Thank you very much for your time and quite interesting discussions. And also thank you, John, for inviting all of us to join you in the scaling this technology across Africa. So to close the session, I'll hand it over to Sylvia to give the closing remarks.
Well, thank you to every single participant to this very interesting discussion, and of course, Anderson, to you, applause for bringing them on board and managing the conversation in such a smooth manner. Really, I sit back, relax, and learned a lot. So thank you for allowing me to do that. A lot was discussed, and we started with a concrete case of Witu in Kenya, where a few items were pinpoints, and I feel like those items came repeatedly over the course of the conversation. So we hear indeed this is a great opportunity. We had these 3 points very well outlined by John on choose the right location, make sure you have a good design. I like very much Vincent's expression of make sure you are not designed to fail, and then having the right expert to put in place, and the resources, human resources, seems to be a very key item. It was mentioned the need to raise more awareness at the local level, both across citizens but also across experts, and to build capacity in order to make sure that these investments are bearing fruits that are meant to, and can lead the way to even further investments done. The risking is still to be tackled, let's say, is something that we heard, and all actors are looking for a lot of experimentations around it. So very happy to see this is not an ending point, it's just a starting point, and let's see how this unfolds. Let's keep contact and let's keep exchanging, because through learning how other experiments are done, we can really improve our own actions. And we heard from you too how this smart element is really not about technology, or not only about technology, is very much about thinking smart, how technology can be deployed and how these services can be integrated in order to reduce the energy loss and to maximize the benefit for the community. I stop here. Much more could have been said, of course, but the recording is going to be uploaded, so if you want rewatch it, this is possible. Just a final word to say that this capacity we heard, capacity building is a key topic. This webinar is part of the capacity program that through the SESA webinar we are trying to build. I invite everyone to check out the NUA campus, where we created 6 courses, everyone on a different technology, where we explain how this works, how this is implemented in practice, and how can be maintained. So trying to do our small part in this big picture. And with that, I would like to thanks very much again the participants, Anderson in particular, program manager from Stockholm Environment Institute, for having led the conversation, and I wish you all a wonderful continuation of the day.
Thank you, and bye-bye.